Hi everyone, Sandy here. Welcome to my channel. Today I have the tutorial finally for this Christmas album that I designed in December of 2022. This is my 8.5 by 8.5 album with a 3.5-inch spine, 8 by 8 pages using simple story, simple vintage Christmas lodge paper collection, some prima sisal flowers, and a lot of elements from my stash to make this album. I love how it turned out. And I had hoped to have it done for you before Christmas, but you know what? Maybe it's a good time now to get a tutorial for a Christmas album. You can sit back, relax without all the worry and hustle and bustle of the holiday season, and you can make a beautiful Christmas album for your 2022 Christmas photos. Or if you like the design of this album, you can use it for any occasion. So don't hesitate to turn it into a baby book, a wedding book, special memorial album, whatever you want to make it into. This is a great design, I think. I love this size, and I think you'll love it too. So stay tuned for the tutorial coming up soon. To create my Simple Story, Simple Vintage Christmas Lodge album, which is an 8.5 by 8.5 album with a 3.5-inch spine, I will, of course, be using the Simple Story, Simple Vintage Christmas Lodge paper collection, black artisan cardstock, one sheet of 8.5 by 11 score tape, 2 sheets of heavyweight chipboard, my art glitter glue. You're going to see me using possibly both of these with 2 different tips. If you have a question about the glue tips that I use, just leave a comment below and I will answer you. I'll also be adding in these decorative items from my design team package, which are this prima sisal trees, the Simple Vintage Christmas Lodge layered stickers, the brads that go with the collection are the decorative adhesive brads and chipboard pieces, the page pieces, and the frame. So I'll be using those as well, and may create or add in some flowers as well. Just depends on that when I start decorating. So let's get started on the cover. To create our album cover, you're going to need the heavy chipboard. You need 2 pieces, and cut those down to the 8.5. You need 2 that are 8.5 by 8.5. And I will show the measurements on the screen. I'm going to do it a little different this time instead of writing. See if that saves me some time. I don't know. And you need one that is 3.5 by 8.5 for the spine. So you need those. Then you're going to want to wrap. We're going to do the lay flat method to wrap our cover, the same that was designed by Tammy of Country Craft Creations. We're going to need 2 pieces to wrap it that are 10.5 by 10.5 out of the artisan black cardstock, or whatever color cardstock you want to use. If you don't have the black, you can use whatever goes with the paper collection you're using. I just thought the black looked really good with the simple vintage Christmas Lodge paper. Then you're going to need one that is 6.5 by 10.5 for the spine, and one that is 8.5 by 8.5, and also score tape sheet cut to 8.5 by 8.5 to fit this piece, which I've already done. Now then, I am going to go ahead and assemble my cover using the lay flat method. I have a separate video showing you how to do that. Of course, it's a different size cover. You want these sizes that I have just given you for this album. Go to the video that I'm linking up above. You're going to see it say lay flat album tutorial video or something like that. Click on that at the top. It'll take you to that video if you don't know how to do this. If you know how, then just go ahead and proceed, and then join me back here on the video, we'll continue with the working on our album. I have my album cover assembled, and I went ahead and planned my papers for the cover, for the outside of the cover. I decided that I wanted to do some matting in red and white. So I went ahead and cut those. So I'll add these to your supply list across the screen. I'm using 2 each of my colors from Country Craft Creations in the Daredevil Red. And then I needed 2 sheets of 12 by 12 white cardstock from Country Craft Creations in the Artisan. And then, of course, I used 2 sheets of the Jolly Saint Nick from the pattern paper. So I'm using this side on the front, and I'm using the back side, but you do need 2 full sheets to cut this. So save all your scraps, of course. So you'll have all that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that on, and then I'll show you the cover with the papers on and the inside. And if you're going to do any inking, go ahead and do that now. I typically don't ink, but I will decide if I want to do that. So if I do, I'll probably do it in a brown color. So go ahead and ink your pattern papers if you want to, and get your pattern papers glued onto your cover. I forgot to give you the measurements of the layers before you cut. So the red I want to be just under the black. So the red is cut 2 pieces that are 8 3/8 by 8 3/8. It's just 1/8 of an inch in the height and width, smaller than the actual cover, because it's only going to have a very narrow margin of black showing. I wanted more of the red showing. So the next piece, the white piece, I'm going to have a bigger margin. So cut your white, if that's what you're wanting to do. I cut 2 that are 8.5 by 8. I'm sorry, I cut 2 that are 8 1/8 by 8 1/8 of the white. And then the black on the covers, back in the covers, this print and this print, or the pattern papers, are going to be 8 by 8. So they'll have the narrow margin. Now for your spine piece, the red, I cut 3 3/8 wide by 8 3/8 tall. And then the white is 3 1/8 by 8 1/8, and the pattern print is 3 by 8. So I'll have that on the screen for you so that you can jot that down. Okay, so there's the cover with all the mats glued down on it. I love how it looks with this the black and white, very classy looking. This is a trend, I think, for this season with the black and the white and with your Christmas colors. So, of course, this is the lay flat album cover. So now we can bend it, and we have the cover like this, a nice 8.5 by 8.5 cover with a wide spine. Open it up. Here we have the insert piece here that you saw in the separate video on how to do your album cover that supports it, the support piece here, and that is burnished into each fold here of the spine. So that gives it a nice finish in there for your hinge area, and then we'll need to cover here on the back on the inside. For the inside cover of our album, I took some of the scraps left over from making the cover and cut different sizes of elements, and I will give you these measurements of what we're going to do. And from one sheet of the 3 by 4 cut aparts, or what do they call them, 3 by 4 elements, sorry, that's the label on it. I cut one piece. This is going to go here inside the front cover, and it is cut at 8 3/8 by 8 3/8 because it's just going to fit right in here without much border around it. But we're not going to put it down yet until we add a hidden flap, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, let me give you these measurements of what you cut out of your scraps. You cut 2 out of the white scrap. It's one long scrap. It's should be already 3 3/4 wide. Cut it down to 5, each one to 5 3/4 tall. So these are going to be photo mats, okay? And then for the flap, we're going to take black cardstock, and you need to cut one at 5 by 7. And we're going to score this one a 1/2 inch on just one side. So I'll do that in just a second. Then these are little inserts and tags and things from your scraps. So you need one that is 3 3/4 by 3, and one that is 3 by 4. I think that's a 3 by 4. One of these, they're just different sizes. There's two. One's 3 by 4 and one's 3 by 3 to 3/4. I can't remember. Oh, I just cut the scraps down and I jotted down notes. Let's see. This one is 3 1/4 by 3. That one's right. This is the 3 by 4. And you can make them different sizes. They don't have to be exactly these sizes. And I cut this one. This one is, see, I'm looking at the wrong pages. Why? Looks like 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. Yeah, 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. This is going to be a belly band, and it's 1 1/2 by 7. And this is, forgot what I wrote this one down to be, the pocket, a 2 by 5. Yeah, 2 by 5. Oh, goodness me, I should have wrote on them. Okay, so those are from our scraps. So let's score this flap, then we'll put it on our paper, and then I'll show you how to put it in the album. Okay, so hang on a second while I get my scoreboard. Okay, so I know for sure this is the flap, and it's 5 by 7, and it was also cut from a scrap. But put your 5-inch at the top, and you're just going to make a score at the 1/2-inch mark. So this is going to make a flap, but it's going to be a hidden flap that goes inside the patterned paper before you actually put it down. So go ahead and fold that and burnish. Grab your mat for your scoreboard and take your patterned paper and just decide where it's going to go. So I think it's going to go here, kind of in the center. So we want to mark this on the back side, just like we do for hidden waterfalls, but this is just going to be a single flap. So I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to kind of halfway measure this. So it's 2. No, 1 7/8 by 1 7/8 thereabouts. And we're going to make it about, what, maybe 5/8. 5/8. It looks like 5/8, right? That looks about right. So I'm going to take my marker here, and I'm going to make me a mark here and a mark here. I'm going to line this up before I move my flap, line up my marks here and here. And I'm going to draw me a line from each mark, okay? Now then, that's what we're going to cut with our ruler and our craft knife. So let me grab that. So we're going to cut from the circle point that we made. I'm going to line this back up so it's nice and square in here. You could also do this with your sliding trimmer if you wanted to. Just take a slice there. Okay. Flip this back over, and this is where we're going to put it. So you insert this right there. And my Sharpie dots came all the way through, but I think they'll be okay. Keep that in mind. Don't use a heavy Sharpie. It went through my patterned paper. So you fit this in. Make sure it's nice and straight. Flip it over. And we're going to put glue on this back side of the hinge. And I went off and left my glue uncovered. So I'm going to have to work on that for just a second. So go ahead and put the glue on the back of your hinge. All the way down. You can also put it here on the page some, just to make sure that we're getting it. And I'm going to fold it over flip my page back over to make sure everything is staying straight and burnish that down. So what that does, that gives us a flap on the page, not up against the outer edge, but in the center of our patterned paper. Now we take our cover. Pay attention to your direction. You don't want anything upside down. And this is going to glue down right here. But we decide, do we want some kind of swing closure or a magnet? And this is when you would do that. You would put your magnet here and then on the back side underneath. You could do it now, a magnet, or you can decide to do a swing closure. So I'm going to take a look at stuff and see if I want a swing closure on this. Okay, so I added the pattern paper here on this front side, and I cut two that are 4 3/4 wide by 6 7/8 tall, so it gives me that narrow margin. But don't put this one on yet because I'm going to show you something different with it. I did take set a sticker and cut it in half and put the holly and berries here to cover where I marked with that Sharpie on the other side. So be careful with that. Use a pencil or a lighter pen. But I just made it into a decorative element, so you can do that. I'll decide if I want to put something else over here or not. So we have this one attached. We want to do a swing tab. Now, we don't have chipboard except the ones with the sticky on, and these I didn't feel worked. So I took a sticker from the sticker sheet. It says It's a Wonderful Life. And this is going to become our swing tab. And I put the sticker onto black cardstock and fussy cut it out. And I'm going to take my pokey tool, and I'm just going to poke a hole through the sticker about in the center, about 1/8 of an inch in. And I marked about a 1/2 inch from the edge of the booklet or the flap in center at 3 1/2. And so I'm going to poke a hole through the patterned paper right here where that dot is. Now then, I am probably the only person in the world who wishes that these brads, instead of being self-adhesive, were really brads. But I took a brad with as flat of a top as I could find, and I used my Nouveau Glossy Crystal Glaze and glued the brad to one of these after I pulled the sticky off. I pulled the foam piece off. So this is going to feed through, and I hope it's dry enough. I think it has, but let me make my hole maybe a little bit bigger if I can. And I'm going to stick the brad prongs through very carefully. Oh, it's not quite dry. I was afraid of that. It's not dry yet, guys. I'm in a hurry trying to get this done. It felt like it was, so I'm going to let it sit some more. Make sure it's good and dry. Once it dries, I know that it will be really, really, really strong with that glaze. You could use some E6000. I don't have any. But, some kind of glue that would glue metal. I think this would be stronger than the art glitter glue, though I have used that in the past. So anyway, we're going to pause, and we're going to let that dry so that we can put this in. Okay, so I've let the brad top dry more. And I've inserted the brad prongs through, and then now I'm going to insert it in through the patterned paper so that it's sitting like that. And then I'm going to flip it over and open the prongs up, flatten them out on the back side here. Press them down really good. Okay, so there's our swing, holding the flap down. Now we're ready to glue this into our page, or into our cover right there. So let's get the glue, flip it over. Add the glue to the back. Make sure you put glue right here along where that split is so that the pattern paper will attach down really good. Okay, and then go ahead and put it on and just make sure you're doing it right side up. You don't want anything upside down. So double checking here. And I did have it upside down, so this is the correct direction right here. So line that up nice and straight as you can up here at the top. Up. Okay. Now that I'm going to burnish that all around the edges. Whoops. We've got it on just a little crooked here. I'm going to lift it up right here. So this should be in a little bit here, which brings that down. There we go. That's better. Okay. Swing this around, and then I'm going to burnish right in here. Now we have this burnished down. Let's go ahead and do the inside here. Now we're going to have a pocket. That little 2-inch by 5-inch piece of cardstock. Take your scoreboard, put your 5-inch in at the top, and score at a 1/4 inch on your left side and 4 3/4 on the right side. That's going to make just a little 1/4 inch attachments for the sides of the pocket. We're going to leave it flat on the bottom. So it means I put glue here on the flap, the 2 little flaps. Glue, and then across the bottom edge. Okay, this is going to go on the inside bottom of this flap. So you put the fold here on the left side of your flap and along the bottom. Oops. Right there. Okay. You're going to have just a tiny bit here where it doesn't go flush because you want to make sure that it doesn't extend, and you have a tiny bit right there. And just make sure it is straight on the bottom, not overextending any. So I'm just realigning it a little bit. Burnish that down across the bottom. So we have a little pocket here. Now if you want to do a notch here, if you want to do decorative across there, you can. So this just flips right here. Make sure that that's got clear turn there. There we go. And burnish that. Okay. Then the pattern paper. I wanted the back side of this, like here. So this piece that I cut the same as this, which was your 4 3/8 wide by 6 7/8 tall, I cut from the bottom and cut it to fit the pocket. So this is about, since this was just about 2 inches, I cut this at about, cut mine at 1 3/4. So I'm going to glue this down on top of the pocket. Okay. So I'm going to glue it like here. Has a little bit more margin on it than I've done on the others, but that's okay. Okay, so like that. And then this is going to go right in here. Okay, so I'm going to put the glue on this piece, the top part of it. So we have a little pocket here on the inside of our flap. Going to put that in there like that and line it up. Okay, so there we go. Burnish that down. Wipe off any excess glue. We don't want to glue this right here, so be sure and clean that up. Okay, so there's our flap. Now then, of our tag things or inserts, I am just going to stick them into the pocket for now. I'll be adding decorative things and pattern papers and what have you later. out of scraps of some of my pattern paper, so I don't want to cut anything right now. So swing that around. Okay, and then we're going to put a belly band. So of that 1.5 wide piece, we cut pattern paper that is 1 3/8 wide by about 6 7/8 tall. And then I put the red brads here, and I patterned with this piece like this. And this is going to go off-centered. I'm going to bring it over about 1 inch from the left. So on the back, you just put a line of glue on each short end. This makes a flat belly band. So we're just going to line it up. Let's see. Looks like about, make sure straight. What did I do? About 1/2 inch, kind of like that. Yeah, about 5/8. So press that down. Burnish. Clean off any glue. Up here. So that makes the belly band. This is where these 2 photo mats will go under, like that. And I will probably add pattern paper or do something to the corners. So for now, that is the inside of your cover, like that. And then we'll do something here for the back side. Before I move on to the inside back cover, I wanted to share that where I marked for my hidden flap, the dot with the pen really bothered me. And I had put 2 stickers there, and I still didn't like that. So what I did is I cut 2 strips 8 3/8 wide of the pattern paper that matches this on the belly band. Cut it 8 3/8 wide by 1/2 inch tall, and then cut black cardstock 8 3/8 by 5/8 tall. And then I put these 2 strips here on the top and the bottom close to the flap to hide those marks. So if you don't like that, hopefully you just used a pencil so that you can erase it and you don't do the same thing that I did. Now over here on the back side, we're going to keep it really simple. I got 1 sheet from the 3x4 photo elements, or the elements sheet. What is that? Yeah, 3x4 elements, but I'm using the stripe side. That's why I ordered extras of these. And that's 8 3/8 by 8 3/8. And that's going to glue down right here on the back. And then next we're going to start working on our pages, getting those assembled, and then we'll do the hinge and put the pages in. So I'm just lining this up here to the edge. Make sure it doesn't go over your fold. Give it a nice burnish with your hands to kind of spread it out, and then if you want, use your bone folder. Make sure to press out that glue and wipe off any excess. You don't want that sticking out. There we go. And then I'm going to put a frame. So just pick any one that you liked. I liked this one with the red bird, with the greenery, which pulls in from the other greenery, I think. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I think, let's see, I have my foam strips. I'm going to use foam strips, I think, on the bottom and the 2 sides. You could use chipboard if you wanted to. I'm just going to use the foam strips because they're really quick to kind of give it a little bit of lift. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going to put this on the bottom edge right here. Of course, I will have to use more than one. Right here, bring it over, and then just kind of snip that off. And then I'm going to put it on the sides, kind of butt it up to that one. And this is just going to give my frame that little bit of lift so that, a picture can go inside of it. Well, this one here. Snip that one off. And then I'm going to save that little piece. Okay, and then this other piece here that's sticking out, that short one that I had left. Did I have one left? Oh, it already fell off. Okay. I'm going to put a couple of pieces here to kind of give that piece that's extending with the birds. We want that to have the same lift as the frame. This last little piece here. Okay. Now then, burnish all our backs here, and then we're going to pull the backing off, and we'll put our frame down. I love using the frames that you can order separately for these simple story, simple vintage collections. Really adds to your album project, and it's really quick and easy to use. You could even put some clear acetate over the front by, putting score tape around the frame. If you wanted something to protect the picture, you could do that too. I am not on this one because I'm kind of under a crunch to get this done, hopefully by Christmas. I started this in November, and life and circumstances, a death in the family, and then getting sick for several weeks. Actually, I could have worked on it, but I didn't have a voice. It's kind of hard to record a tutorial video when you don't have a voice. So I just put it on the back burner and waited until I could talk again. And trying to finish this up before Christmas. Okay, so now we have that. And we're going to just make sure it's straight and kind of center it. If you want top to bottom, I'm just going to kind of do it like that. Stem. And there's the frame on the back side. So now we're going to set the cover aside, and we're going to start working on the different pages that go in the album. To make the base pages for this album, I'm planning on 6 pages. At least that's what I have in my notes that I wrote down before I had to quit working on this. So if I end up not using full 6, I'll put it on the screen, the correct amount. I'm going to be making 6 right now. And to make those, you need 12 sheets of cardstock. The Artisan Black is what I'm using. You need to cut 6 pieces that are 8 by 9 and 6 pieces that are 8 by 8. Now the 8 by 9, we're going to score the 9-inch side at a 1/2 inch on both ends. So that would be, if you're using the other scoreboard, you would score at half inch and 8.5, or like with this one, you can just score at a 1/2 inch, flip it around, make sure it's the 9-inch side, and make another 1/2 inch score. So you want 2 1/2 inch scores, one on each end. So I'm going to do that on all of them. Okay, so we have all those scored, all 6 of those. And then for the other pieces, you need 6 that are 8 by 8. And these are going to make the photo sleeves that will go on our hinge. So I'm going to move my trimmer out of the way, because you don't do any scoring on those. And again, that was 6 that are 8 by 8, 6 that are 8 by 9, scored at a 1/2 inch on each side, each end of the 9-inch side. So now we're going to take, and these are the scraps that were left. So you have quite a few scraps. Great for tags, photo mats. Keep all these. You can use them in this project or in another project. So you want to make sure you keep those. You don't want to waste any of that paper. So I'm going to take my bone folder, and I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish each 1/2 inch in those score lines. And of course you want to make sure that they're facing each other like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this 8 by 8, we're going to glue it on each of these like this to create an 8 by 8 base page. So I'm going to show you on one, then I'll do the rest off camera. So I really burnish my score line really good to get that laying pretty flat. And I'm just going to put glue on this side over here. Now you assemble it however is most comfortable for you, what makes sense to you, or easiest for you to get it straight. So I'm putting glue on this one. 1/2 inch flap here. I'm going to take, since this is 8 by 8, it doesn't matter which way, and I'm going to lay it down even on the bottom here and make sure that the right side of this 8 by 8 is right along the fold here of this bottom base page. So we get that and we burnish that really good. And then of course this should fit right there. So we put glue on this other side. Put glue on the other 1/2 inch tab. It's folded over. So this will be attached to the inside. And now we do the same thing. We bring this one up. We make sure that we're lining it up. And it should fit if everything was cut and scored right, so that it's right up against that 1/2 inch, or the fold of this one. And then you just go ahead and burnish it. So you have this sleeve like this that will fit over your hinge, and it will leave you a opening of your page. So we'll do these to all 6 of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it off camera. You don't need to watch me to do all 6. You do them all exactly the same. For page 1 and 2, which is the front and the back of one of the base pages, from your scraps you're going to cut one piece that's 3.5 by 9, 2 pieces that are 4 inches by 12, that's for page 1, and 1 piece that is 3.5 by 4.5 for page 2. And then from another full sheet of 12 by 12, you're going to cut 1 piece that is 8 by 4.5 wide. We didn't have enough wide enough from the scraps for that. So from your first piece, which is your 3.5 by 9, we're going to score the 9-inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. This is going to make a pocket. And then we're going to score the 3.5 inch side at 1/2 inch just on one side. And then I want you to take your scissors and do an angle cut right here where the intersection is for this pocket. Just cut right there like that. There, and then go ahead and fold and burnish your pocket attachment pieces all on the same side like this. And you can burnish those down. So that is a pocket for page 1. Then these 12-inch pieces, we're going to score on your 12-inch side. We're going to score every 3 inches. Yes, we're going to make the first score at 3. Turn it around and score on the other side at 3. And then we're going to fold this one so that I can make another 3-inch. So if you're using the regular scoreboard, it would be 3, 6, and 9. Okay, so you do that on both of them. So like I said, on this particular scoreboard, I'm going to do 3 inches. turn it, do 3 inches, fold that under, score it 3 inches again, which on the bigger scoreboard, if that's the one you're using, you put your 12-inch in and you would score at 3, 6, and 9 to make a booklet. This back down right quick. So we're going to take this and we're going to glue 2 end pieces together. So like this. If you wanted to make it a pocket, you could. I'm just going to glue it solid. Put glue on one 3-inch section on one end. Take the other 12-inch piece and line this up so that the cut edge is along that fold on both sides like this. And burnish that on. So let's join these 2 pieces together. Now we can fold this up on the fold lines. Into a booklet like that. And then I'm going to burnish all the score lines. So that is a booklet like that. You can fold it up any way you want to, like I did accordion type, and that's going to go inside the pocket here for page 1. Now then for page 2, which is the back side of the first base page, you have your 1 3.5 inch by 4.5. There's no scoring, and your 8 by 4.5 is a side flap. So we're going to score on the 4.5 inch side at a 1/2 inch. And then you just fold that and burnish. Okay, so let's get our base page and we'll assemble this. So this is going to go on your hinge. So you're going to make sure that this is your side here. And on the first page, I'm going to put the pocket right here on the bottom. So I'm going to put glue on all 3 1/2 inch tabs on the back side here. If you're wanting to put tape on this bottom one, you could go ahead and do that. You put this one down first and then add your tape. I'm just going to go ahead and put it down all 3 sides at once. So I'll line it up here, line it up on the bottom, and line it up on the side and burnish. So I've got my pocket on. Oops, I need to make sure it stays where it's supposed to. There we go. So that it's flush on the bottom here. Okay. Of course, this is going to go inside the pocket like that. We're going to flip this over. We don't have to put it in just yet. We're going to, of course, when I work with this, I'm going to probably put a belly band or a tie or something on this to keep it from coming undone. Now then, we turn this over, make sure the pocket is on the bottom. You turn this over and you have a side flap here. I'm going to put glue on that 1/2 inch tab on the back. Glue that down, make sure it lines up the fold of the flap, lines up to the cut edge, and also here on the bottom. You want it nice and straight as possible. Here, and we open that up. Now this one's going to have a closure here like this, which can be a swing tab or a magnet. I am not going to attach this down until I attach my patterned paper. So I won't lose this. I'm just going to paper clip that together like that. I'm going to paper clip this. I may fold this up a little different. Let's see here. Go in on each one, then in and back and in. We'll see. I don't like that. Fold. I think the accordion fold is probably the best. Okay. So that's going to go with this pocket here for extra photos. I may end up attaching it at the top or something. but I'm just going to stick it in that pocket for now. That's page 1 and page 2. For page 3, you need to cut 1 out of, and I used a scrap of the paper that I have left over, but you need to cut 1 that's 6 1/4 by 8. And we're going to score this one on our 6 1/4 side. We're going to score at just a 1/2 inch. Now this is going to make a top flap on our page. So we just fold that score line and burnish that. Set that aside for just a second. Then we also need one for a pocket that is 2 1/2 by 9, and we're going to score the 9-inch side at a 1/2 inch. Then your 2 1/2 inch side at a 1/2 inch. And again, on the other end of your 9-inch side at a 1/2 inch. So this makes a pocket. So again, you cut at the points where they intersect. Just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and fold and burnish those. Okay, so that's the pocket for page 3. Then inside the pocket, we're going to put some mats and things. So we've got cut 1 that is 3 1/2 by 4. Cut this out of scrap. All of these came out of scrap. And 3 that are 4 by 5 1/2 photo mats. So we cut those. And then for page 4, go ahead and cut 1. And I did use a new sheet of the 12 by 12 black artisan cardstock. So I cut 1 that is 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. And this is a photo mat. And then we made another pocket that is the 9-inch by 2 1/2. So we score the 9-inch at a 1/2 inch, turn, score your 2 1/2 at a 1/2 inch, turn, and score the other end of your 9-inch at a 1/2 inch, and angle cut where they intersect. And then go ahead and fold and burnish. So that is for page 4. So we're going to go ahead and glue these in onto the page, the next base page. So 3 is the front, 4 is the back. Let me move this out of the way real quick. Give me a little more room. Grab another base page. Again, make sure your opening is to your left and your right like this. So on the front side, we're going to put a top flap. So it's going to fit right here at the top. So take your glue, put glue on that 1/2 inch tab. Let me get my glue going again. There we go. Very cold outside, so I don't know if that's affecting it. It shouldn't because we keep it warm in here. Of course, I do sit by north window, so that can make it really cold. Okay, we're going to put this along the top. Just make sure it is lined up so that I'm getting glue everywhere. Well, luckily, I will cover that with patterned paper. Make sure it's lined up on the sides here and across the top. And then we burnish. So don't have it quite even on the top yet. Got it over a little bit. There we go. Now I will burnish that. Put it up. What is it? I got too much glue on it is what it is. So I'm just going to clean that off with my Teflon bone folder and burnish that. Okay. We don't want anything sticking here. Like I said, I will have paper on this, but this is the top flap of this page. And then we're going to have the pocket down below. So we put glue on all 3 of the 1/2 inch tabs. Try to put a little less glue on here. New bottle, I always get more glue coming out. I'm going to fit this along the bottom. and make sure it fits on the sides as well, just like that. So we burnish this pocket. You see that needs burnished a little more. Now when the flap comes down, we have just a little bit of a gap between the two, and then that's where you can put in like your 4 by 5.5. Is that the right one? Mixed up. That's my 4.5. That goes on my other one. That's my 4.5 by 6.5. I'll let that set that aside. So we have the 3 photo mats here, like this, and then we have the small. So that's going to kind of do that. Work on that side, and we flip it over. We got the flap at the top. And we've got a pocket here. Now you can put this on the side if you want, which I think I'm going to do. This is going to go there like that. So that would make it on the left side of flap. You can do it on the bottom if you prefer, but I am going to put it here on the side. So I put my glue on my 1/2-inch tabs on the back of the pocket. This goes right here. And we'll just line that up really well. I'm going to turn it so I can make sure I'm getting it lined up right. Burnish. And then this, let me put those back in where they belong. This will either go here or in the pocket. I will decide as I am creating or adding my pattern paper, which kind of gives you the freedom to do what you want. You can either do the tuck or you can put it here. So this is page 3 has the top flap, and this is page 4. Okay, so next we're ready to work on the page 5. We're going to have one side pocket. We're going to cut another 2.5 by 9 out of scraps. We're going to score the 9-inch side at a 1/2 inch. Turn, score the 2.5-inch side at a 1/2 inch. Turn and score the other end of the 9-inch at a 1/2 inch. Angle cut. Fold and burnish the pocket. Cut one more piece out of a scrap for a pocket. You should still have a scrap big enough that is 4.5 by 6.5 for a photo mat. And then on page 6, we're going to use this frame. I chose the Merry Christmas. You can choose whichever one if you're using a collection that has the frames. So let's put this in the book or on our base page. So we have another base page. Put the openings to the left and the right. We're going to take, this is a side pocket. Now this is page 5, so it's going to go in the book like this, and I want my pocket here on the right. So take my glue, put it on the 1/2 inch tabs of my pocket on the back side, just like this. And again, we're going to put it on the right side of page 5, which is on the little bit on the front. Just line it up. Make sure the fold of the pocket goes along the edge of the page, and then this top and bottom match up. So we burnish and make sure it's on there straight. Burnish your flaps down. So that is the side pocket. And of course, then we have the mat that just goes in. This page is really, flip this over. This is going to glue on after I add my pattern paper to the page, so I'm just going to clip this to it so I know that which one I want to use. So that is page, get my pen, page 5 and page 6. Page 7 is going to be made the same as page 3. So I cut one that is 6 1/4 by 8. This is going to be a top flap. So I put the 6 1/4 in at the top, all the way across, and we're going to score at a 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish that, so that's going to attach to the top of the page. Then we have one pocket that is on the bottom, and so this is 9 by 2.5, so we're going to score the 9-inch side at a 1/2 inch. Turn, score our 2.5 side at a 1/2 inch. Turn and score the other end of the 9-inch at a 1/2 inch to make the pocket. Angle cut where they intersect. Go ahead and fold and burnish those up to create the pocket. And then I also cut, now these were cut from the 6 1/4 by 8 was cut from a full 12 by 12 sheet. These were cut, the rest of it, this pocket was cut from a scrap. And then I also cut 3 4 by 5.5 from scraps and one closure tab 3.5 by 4 from a scrap. Page 8 is going to have a different element on it. We cut 6 4.5 by 5 3/4. I was able to cut 2 of these from a scrap, and then I cut the other 4 from one full sheet of 12 by 12 artisan black cardstock. So we have that. Okay, so we set that aside. Let's grab another base page. Again, make sure it's open to the left. Whoops, there we go, to the left and to the right. So we have the top flap. It's going to go on the top. So it's glue on the 1/2 inch tab on the back. Just going to turn my page. I do have my opening here on the left side, but I just turn it so I can see it good to make sure I'm lining it up right. Try to get a little less glue everywhere. Open it up, burnish inside, and then we open it up, and then our bottom pocket goes right here. So we put glue on our 1/2 inch tabs on all 3. This is going to make a really good size album for lots of photos, but I think it's pretty easy, pretty quick to put together. So make sure we line this up on the bottom right here. Okay. Burnish your pocket in. Sure it's on straight. And then, of course, the pocket goes down, so we have your 3 photo mats and this one here. They all go inside like that. So that is page, right on there, page 7. So we flip it over to page 8. Now this is going to be different. We're going to make a ribbon photo booklet that's going to attach right down on the page, on the pattern page. So I'm going to go ahead and write page 8 here. We're going to make this, but we don't attach it down until later. I should clip all these together to make it easier, wouldn't it? So here, grab a paper clip, stick them kind of in the pocket and clip them in there like that, hopefully. Okay, so there's page 8. So we need our crocodile hole punch or hole punch that you have. Now to make this easier, I'm going to do it just on one. I'm going to use my ruler to mark my holes. We're going to go 3/8 of an inch in. Let me see how far in that is. So if you want to wait and do this to pattern your paper, especially the front one, you can. I'm going to go ahead and do it um, now, and then I can repunch the holes on just the front one if I want. So what I'm going to do is lay this down. I want my first hole, and you're doing it on the longest side, on your 5 3/4 side. I want my first hole, and I'm going to do it at 3/8 in. So I'll line this up with the ruler, 3/8 there. I want the first one at 1 1/4, the second one at 2 3/4, and the last one at 4 1/4. Okay, so we have that. I'm going to line them all 6 together. I'm going to clip them together to secure them. And we're going to set this, try to set this at 3/8. I think it already is. Let's see here. It's going to be the biggest hole. So I'm going to eyeball this. I can pretty well see that. So I'm going to punch each one the same distance from the side. And then to create this, we're just going to take seam binding ribbon and we're going to thread it through and just tie it to, we're going to lace it through and make a mini album that patches down onto the page. So let me grab my ribbon that I want to use. So I have about a yard of the red seam binding, and I'm going to thread it one end from the front side through the middle, then back up on one of the other holes. Okay, and then just pull that. Excuse me. So what it is, you want for each one about 18 inches thereabouts. So I'm just going to pull this and then clip a little bit off here. This side. Okay. So this one also threads in. Pull this on the side, thread this one through the center, and then back up the other hole. Okay. Grab that right quick. There we go. And pull it through. Whoops. So that you can tie it into a knot right here. Just going to tie a knot because I don't want it to come undone. That, and I kind of left it a little bit loose, like I can put my finger under there a little bit. This one the same way, just tie it in a knot. Okay, so then I'm going to tie these in a knot on the ends. And you could tie in multiple ribbons or add in some baker's twine, you know, that's the red and the green or red and white. If you wanted to, just kind of decorate it up the way you want to. It's a little shorter. Okay. So this is a booklet album. Once the pattern paper's on, and you don't have to pattern the back. Each page just opens up and you would pattern each separate page. Then you can add photos in here. If you want to make it to where it folds more, you can do a score line. But I think this one's going to work fine for me like this. So this is going to glue right onto the page once I get it all finished. So I'm just going to clip this together. So that is page 7 and 8. Of course, this fell out, so I'll put that back in. So now we're ready to move on to our next set. Okay, so moving on to page 9 and 10. Now I took another full sheet of the black 12 by 12 cardstock to cut this piece, but check your scraps first. Just because I didn't have one doesn't mean you don't have one, because we all may cut it out a different way. So from a full size sheet, I did cut 4.5 by 8. And we're going to score our 4.5. This is a side flap. We're going to score our 4.5 inch side at a 1/2 inch. Fold and burnish that. And then we just, from a scrap, I cut one that's 3.5 by 4.5 for a closure tab. So we have that. And then on page 10, we're just going to use another photo frame. I picked this one that says Hello Santa. You pick out what you want. So we can put this away again. And let's grab another base page. Make sure your openings are to the right and the left. This is going to be a side flap. So this is the front side. I'm going to put it here on the right. I hope I've been doing all of mine correct. Put your glue on your 1/2 inch tab. Glue it in to the right side where the opening is. So I'm going to lay it right in here. Line it up. Make sure it fits from end to end and right along the edge. And burnish that. Push it here. Open it up. If I have a little bit just from my cutting out, kind of funky, sticking over, I just trim off a little bit so it's not sticking out. So it's fine on both sides here. There we go. Burnish, burnish, burnish. This is the closure tab, so I'm just going to paper clip that on. Page 9. Sides, flip it over. This will be page 10, and it will have a frame. Easy peasy on that one. So that is page 9 and 10. We only have one more set to go. Okay, so here we are on our last page set, which is pages 11 and 12. Hope I have enough room in my spine to get this one in. If not, I might have to switch it out with another. Page 11 is going to be the same as pages 3 and 7. It's going to have a top flap. So from a scrap, I was able to cut one 6 1/4 by 8. We put the 6 1/4 in at the top of your scoreboard and score at just a 1/2 inch. That makes the top flap. So go ahead and fold and burnish that. Then we have another pocket, which is at the bottom. This is 2.5 by 9 out of scrap. I was able to cut that. So put your 9 inch at the top, score it at a 1/2 inch. Turn, score your 2.5 inch side at a 1/2 inch. Turn and score your 9 inch on the other end at a 1/2 inch. Angle cut the pockets here where they intersect on the corners, like that. Then we go ahead, we're going to fold and burnish our pocket. And again, for page 11, we cut out of scraps some mats, photo mats that are going to go in that. So we have the one that is 3.5 by 4, and then we have 3 that are 4 by 5.5 scraps. All of those are scraps. So that's for page 11. Page 512, we're going to do a waterfall. So I have cut 4 that are 4 by 5s, and then I have a question mark on this one. I cut 1. I have it on my notes. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm not sure if I need it. I cut 1 at 4 by 5 1/4. All these were cut out of scraps. So you take the 4 that are your 4 by 5s, and we're going to put the 5 inch side in at the top. Okay, that's what I say on my notes. Put your 5 inch at the top and score it a 1/2 inch to make a waterfall. On all 4 of these, so 5 at the top, score it a 1/2 inch. 5 across the top, score it a 1/2. 5 across the top, score at and half. Okay, so fold and burnish. So let's get this out of the way. Fold and burnish all 4 of those to make waterfall flaps. Okay, that done. And as it's winter, even though it's artisan cardstock, I do sometimes have a little cracking going on because it's winter, especially if my package has been out of the, or my paper's been out of the packaging while I was working on it here. So I just take a file and just kind of smooth that out. You can see any rough edges. It didn't really crack all the way through. It just kind of has some roughness. Save this one in case I need it. That 4 by 5 1/4, and that's for page 12. So let's grab our last base page again. Make sure she's open to the left and the right. And we take our top flap. Again, it's going to fit across the top. You have your openings on each side, so it's going to go right there. So you want to glue on the back side here where your 1/2 inch is folded over of your flap. Line this up here. Make sure it's straight. Burnish it down. Yeah, I did that one pretty neat without a whole lot of glue everywhere. And we burnish inside here real quick. Take our pocket. We've already angle cut that, so we put glue on each 1/2 inch tab. There's 3 sides of your pocket. This is going to go at the bottom of the page. We've already done 2 of these, so you just line it up down here. Make sure the fold of the pocket goes along the bottom edge. Okay. Moved on me a little bit, so I'll put it back. And we burnish to get that pocket on. And I did get glue all over that one. That one's crooked. Wow. I did slip. Okay. Put it back where it belongs. There we go. And burnish. That pocket to stick. And then, of course, your 3 tags that are your 4 by 5 1/2, and then your 1 smaller one goes in, and we'll clip it. Try to paper clip it in. I'm going to write down here on the pocket, page 11. Okay, sides are open on the sides. Let's flip this over. Now, these we're not going to put on until we've done the pattern of the paper. So we've got 1, 2, and just kind of checking to see. I'm actually doing it on top so I can see how my length goes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And I must have had this one underneath probably, so we'll keep that just in case we want it. So all of these we're going to clip together. We're going to write page 12. These go on after you've added your patterned paper. So that is all the elements, the flaps and things, pockets for the pages. So next, I'm either going to do some of the patterning that I need to do with you to put these elements together, or I may go ahead and do the hinge. So I'll be back with all that. To make the hinge for this album, I am going to try for the first time to make a floating hinge with side gusses that was designed by Carolyn Ham, which is also a new designer for Country Craft Creations. I've been intrigued by her hinge and how it lays flat, and I wanted to give it a try, so I asked her if it'd be okay if I used it in one of my tutorials and linked one of her videos or gave her credit for the design. So I am going to link that Down below, if you click on show more or more in the description, also I'll put it up here in the corner of my video so that you can go check it out from her because she really gives a detailed account on how to make this. So in this video that I'm linking, you will go to, for just the hinge, go to 32 minutes, 24 seconds, and that's where the hinge starts in her video. But I will show you how I made it. Now I had to adjust mine to fit my spine. Hers is, I think, a 2.5 in her album, and I needed for a 3.5-inch spine for 6 pages. So I had to do a little math, had to do a little creative math. So I hope this works. So my hinge piece I cut, because of my pages are 8 inches tall, I cut one piece of the artisan cardstock out of a full sheet of 12 by 12, cut a piece that's 9.5 by 8, and then I will show you how I scored it. I'm showing you scoring on this one. For mine, it's going to be 1/2 inch gussets with a 1/2 inch hinge. Carolyn's was a 3/4 inch gussets with a 3/4 inch hinge, but to make mine fit in mine, I went with a 1/2 inch because I thought that would be easier for me on my first one here. So you're going to put your 9.5 inch side in at the top of your scoreboard, and you're just going to simply score every 1/2 inch. So I just went along and scored it every 1/2 inch all the way down to 6, and on this one, then I flipped it around and finished it out on this other end. So on a regular scoreboard, it would be 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9, and that would be the end of it. Okay. Now then, we're going to want these two end ones. You're going to fold your score line so that they fold with what I call a valley. So you fold them in towards the front right now. Okay. So that's like your front and back gussets. So the next score line is going to be a mountain, which is for your first hinge. So you score that and really burnish that in when you score that. Then the next one is going to be a valley and then a mountain. So mine's already been scored. The neat thing about Carolyn, she'll explain in her video, is she makes her gussets and her hinge the same size so that when she's burnishing it in after she's folding it in, that she can see that it's nestling inside of the hinge, is nestling into the gussets, so that she knows that her hinge is going to be straight, especially for these bigger albums. You want them to be as straight as possible because any slight variation, if you have it off a little bit, is going to show up on your pages. So see, that's fitting right in there, and then this one fits right in like this. And like I said, in her video, she goes into a lot more detail than what I do because I'm just hoping that I get it right. But anyway, so we've got this where we have 6 hinges. We've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you've got the 2 little spaces here on the side. So once I glue this all up together, it should fit into that 3.5 inch space. So I'm going to take my glue. I'm going to leave my trimmer and my scoreboard here. And take my glue. Now you don't put glue in the first one because that's a gusset. So you put glue on the next 1/2 inch section, or score tape if that's what you want to use. But I'm going to use glue. And you just have to put it on the one side of the half. And then this is going to fold into that together. And we're just going to press out all that glue. I probably should get the a mat here. I'll just clean up my table as I do this. So press really hard, get that really flat, and I'm going ahead and flatten this one as well. So that one is like that. Then the next set, skip this one, you're going to put glue in the next one. Oops, need that on that part. There we go. Press this down. And I'm going to bring those together really well and burnish. Get a real good press on it. Get that glue coming out the end. Wipe it off. And so now I have 2 of my hinges done. See, like that? 1, 2. I've got this wing here, and 1, 2. Now the next ones again. And what this is you're putting glue on 1/2 of the where there's 2 together where you have that valley fold like that. Just burnish that really well. Back. And so like this, I think is how Carolyn does it. She like folds that hinge that she's put together and really burnishes it so that it lays in there really flat, and she does it back and forth. So you see how this one goes, fits right into that gusset area and then folds it back like that. So I'm going to flip it over. Then the next one, the next valley. Bring those 2 together. To press it in and burnish. So I've got 3 done like that. Flip it over. So you see the flat part here, this next one, where there's the fold goes down. I'm going to put my glue. Bring those 2 together. Flatten it down. Burnish the hinge back and forth. Press out that excess glue and wipe it off. Flip it to the other direction. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 1 more to go. So I'll flip it to the back. I see my valley here. The glue. Bring that together. Fold it down. And burnish that hinge. Wipe that glue off. Okay. So now, get back and forth. I'm just working them back and forth to make sure they fold really easily. All 6. So we have 6 1/2-inch double thickness hinges with a 1/2-inch space or gusset between each one. And of course, we have the 1/2-inch on the front and the back. So if I turn this over like this, and if I did it right, I have 3.5-inch. Now, sometimes your paper stretches a little bit. If it's not exactly 3.5-inch and it won't fit in my my spine right, I will have to trim it a little bit. Let's grab the book cover and see how that looks. And it fits. I'm going to hold it down right in here. And it looks to me like it's going to fit okay. I might need to trim just a tiny bit off of one edge. And I think I will do that with my trimmer here, just to be on the safe side. Flip this over. Just going to line this up, make sure it's straight. So I'm just trimming a hair off each. Right, there's just a sliver. And then I'm going to be really confident, I believe, that it's going to fit in really nice and flat. Okay, so there we have that. Now then, as Carolyn explains in her video, if you want to do the traditional hinge method, and you would put your score tape or your glue on this, all this flat piece here, and you would fit it in just like that. And you would have your regular hinge attached to your spine. But what I want to do is her method for a floating gusseted hinge. You need one piece cut out of a full 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. You need one that is 7.5 by 8. So double checking, 7.5 here by 8. Then we're going to put the 7.5 inch side in at the top. And I hope I've got this figured right. We're going to score at 1 3/4. Okay, and at 2. Okay, 1 3/4 at 2, 1 3/4 and 2. Then turn it around and do it again. 1 3/4 and 2. Now then, flip it over and score at 1 7/8, right in the middle of those first two scores. 1 7/8. Flip it around and score at 1 7/8. Now, I've done this a couple of times and I was having trouble with the artisan cardstock because it's so thick. But now then, we're going to score, or fold, I should say, the outer lines with the bump. I'm going to see if that works for me. The two outer furthest out into the bump. And then the next one we fold is going to be the most inner one with the bump. So fold and burnish that. So you kind of really have to work at that. Make sure you're getting the right score line. So we have the two. So what we have now is this 1/4 inch, and we have that one line in the middle. So we'll do the same here. We folded this one on the outer. Now we fold the other one, the furthest one to the center, which would be the 2 inch score line. So we just fold that and burnish. Okay. So now we have 2, the 1/4 inch on each side, and this meets in the middle. That's what we want. And I'm double checking. This should be, yes, 3.5 right here. Okay, next our objective is to get this little center fold to go in so that we have like an accordion. Now, Carolyn takes it with it standing up and pushes in. So I just kept pushing in with this and playing with it and folding it in. So what you want is you want that little center one going in and your two outer ones lines going forward so that you have it real flat there, but you have that little gusset in there. Okay, so you just have to keep pushing on that line, kind of flatten it down so I can see that line and push it in and flatten that down on that end and go over here, flatten it out so I could see the line, put my bone folder end up against it and push and flatten those two, and did it in the center. So you just kind of have to keep playing with it. You want that center score line to go in. Once I got these guys, then I kind of started just pushing with my fingers, pressing in. Take that bone folder again and just press on that line to get that folded, pinch it, and then burnish it down. Make sure it stays even here. Lined up and burnish it. Okay, so when they fold up, we've got the two meeting, and this is going to be our gusset, our piece, our floating piece, and this will fit over here like that. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. So now we're ready to attach the back of the hinge, the flat part, into the center section of this. So that's between these lines here, or if you fold it back like that. But it's just flatten it out a little bit. So now I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to hold my hinges so I can put glue across all of them. Bends. And just go ahead and get all your glue on the whole thing. A good amount of glue on each section. That glue wasn't coming out really well right there for a bit, so just adding some more. Make sure everything attaches down good. For me, it's easier to just kind of put it up and down on each one. Okay. So now I'm going to take this, and it should fit flat down. It should be the exact size. So if you get it straight up here and straight here, everything's going to be good. So I'm just going to burnish in between each one with my finger first. Just like that. So it's all on nice and straight. And we burnish it in. Make sure everything is attached down really good. So you got these wings open like that. Okay. Now then, there's the hinge. Wipe off any glue you might have. Okay. So that looks good. Let's take our album cover. I'm going to move this out of the way. So this is the inside of my album cover. And when this is folded in, it's going to fit right there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Right there between and within my spine. So I'm going to attach one at a time. So I'm going to put glue on the back of this one folded in. So this one's going to go down right here. It should fit within that section there. That should not go over my spine area, and it's about a quarter of an inch from the top and the bottom. So I'm going to burnish that in. I'm going to flip this open, burnish right here, wipe off any excess glue, and burnish that. Okay. Now then, And my glue, clean that off down here. And like I said, this is the first time I've done this, so I'm kind of excited to see how it turns out. Now this one, remember the glue is going to go on this folded back section. So right here. Okay, so it folds under and it should slide in and meet that other one. Make sure it's not in the groove of my folder or my album here. Make sure that's coming up right there. So I'll burnish this down. Press out glue here at the top, clean that up. Reach in there with my bone folder or with a ruler because it's longer and kind of burnish in there. Don't break your ruler. Already broke one this week. Okay, so there's the hinge. Clean this glue up here at the top in my album. Okay, so we're going to see how that works for me. I love seeing it work in Carolyn's album, so I'm hoping that it will all come together well for me. So that's the hinge in. So now we're back to probably adding some pattern paper to some of the sections of the pages and getting them in the book. For page 1, I took some paper I had left of this pattern, cut it to fit. So I'm cutting mine 1/8 of an inch shorter in width and height. So like, for example, I'm not going to give it to you on all of them, but this one here would be where it's 8, it's 7 7/8 wide, and the pocket was 3, so it's 2 7/8 tall. And then I cut the other part 7 7/8 wide and about 5 to kind of get down in that pocket. Doesn't have to go all the way down. Then this little accordion piece that we have, folded it so that this one's on the front, and the opposite side of this pattern, I cut it to fit on the front for now. 2 7/8 by 3 7/8, and I'm going to take about 1.5 yards I have, I think, of ribbon, and on the back side I'm going to place it in the center. I'm going to take a piece of score tape. Okay, and we're just going to tape this on the back here. Get it pretty straight, pretty centered. Bring it around, and I'm going to go ahead and tie it in a bow on the front. And then for the inside, you could decide whether you want to leave it the black and leave it for photos, or mat it with some white cardstock, or mat it with some of your 3x4 cut aparts on the inside. It's going to be up to you. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do, so I'm not going to do that right now. I just want to get this ribbon tied here, and then I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to tie off the bottom. So I made sure I had plenty to get me a good bow. Tie this a knot here at the bottom and just cut that off. You can save what you got left here for a possible tag or something if you're going to make something like that. And then we'll tie this one also, not the same length or so. Okay, and trim that one off as well. Now then, we have that. This is going to fit down here on this, and then we have a pocket at the top. So I may have put my tape a little high. I'm going to peel this backing off. Get some of the tape off the top part. There we go. Just kind of push it down because I don't want it sticking to this part here. Roll that down just a little bit. Okay, then we're going to put glue from the ribbon just on this back piece here. And I'm going to take some plastic and put in here. I don't want it sticking back here in case I miss it. And I'm going to center it about like that. And I'm just going to press it down. So that's an accordion album in itself on the page, and then we have a pocket where we will putting some photo mats or tags or things that we make. So that's page 1. Very simple, really easy to make. And then we're ready for the back on page 2. I'm going to leave this plastic in for right now to make sure I don't have a problem with that. So we're going to cut some paper for this, and we'll pattern this one. For page set 2, I cut this base page and this page inside the flap. This is 7 7/8 by 7 7/8 and 7 7/8 tall by 3 7/8. Now, I did put a magnet right here under this before I put it down. I forgot to show you that because I'm going to add this piece here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add it right now. And I'm just putting, it doesn't have a hinge flap or anything. I'm just putting it down flat. So I'm putting glue about a 1/2 inch on this. And I'm just going to kind of place it down wherever I think it goes. Keep it straight kind of and put it on here and burnish it down. Okay, then the magnet is going to go. So let me grab my magnet. It's the wrong one. Let me find it. Okay, so the magnet, I lay it there. Then I pull the backing off. You could do a swing tab if you wanted to. This one I'm going to do a magnet. And I'm going to pull it up gently. Place my tape over the magnet so that when I pattern that, I won't have a problem. Now then, this one's going to go over right here. Cut the same size as the one on the inside, 3 7/8 by 7 7/8. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. I wanted the red. Okay. Blue on that. And we're going to place this down. Center it there and burnish that. So this is going to go here. So we need to add pattern paper over here on this side. But I'm going to put this frame here so this back piece of this goes over onto this. So I'm going to decide next what I'm going to put here. I didn't know if I want to just put this color. It's not the right size, but let me think about that for just a second. Here on the inside of the magnet, I cut a piece of white cardstock to go over that. Put that on real quick. Okay. And then I cut this tag down to fit over that. Cut a little bit more off each side. I think just a tiny margin of the green, the black and green around it. Okay. Sometimes I do that with my scissors because it's just easier to trim that down. I want a little bit of white going around. Kind of like that. I'm going to bring it up because I'll probably put a sticker on it. So I'm going to put this down. This is like for a journaling box. So put that down. That. Straighten it up. Okay. Okay. And then let me look at these stickers because they're nice and flat. that I could put on here. Christmas wishes. These tags are neat. How about the naughty and nice? Or nice, I mean. Let's put a little bit of glue on that just to secure it. Naughty or nice. We'll put that right about there. Okay, and then I like the snowflakes. Also like the red bird here. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to put that on there. So a little glue on the back of the sticker just to make sure. Put that right there. Okay, so we have a place for journaling, and then this closes over that. The magnet catches, and then this right here, I did the stripe to fit. And this piece I cut down to 2 3/4 by 4 3/8. Put this on, and then we'll add the frame. Okay, and the frame is going to fit right here. Now we got to make sure it's not off the edge of the page, but everything is caught so that there's nothing showing. So I'm going to put glue on all of this floral piece here. I'm going to leave this open. This has glue right there. Probably shouldn't put any right there, so let me wipe that off real quick. Picture to be able to go in there, so I'm going to make sure everything is in line where I want it. Right there. Press that down. Let that frame, the chipboard frame grab. So there's that frame on that page. That's page 2, page 1, page 2. Of course, I'll be adding probably some more things to page, like page 1. But for now, I want to get the main pattern paper on and what you need to see for you to be able to finish yours. So here we go. Okay. So that's page 1. I'm going to lay that in my book so I know where it goes. And we're ready to go on to the next. So for page 3, I've added the pattern paper here on the flap. And again, I cut it 1/8 of an inch shorter in width and height. So this is 7 7/8. And I think it's 5 3/8. 5 5/8. So I cut 2 pieces for the inside and the front. Cut a piece in here that's 7 7/8 wide by about 6 1/2. And then 7 7/8 wide by 1 7/8 for the pocket. And then for this closure piece here, I cut a piece of this that is 3 3/8 tall by 3 7/8 wide. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it right here, but I also want to do some a ribbon through here with eyelets. So I'm going to see if we can reach it. Let's see here. Maybe I'll just do it on this piece and then glue it on just to be safe instead of going all the way through. So I'm going to punch a large hole here. 1, and let me see how far I lined it up. About 1/4 of an inch from the edge and 3/8 of an inch in. That's about right. I have 2 white eyelets I'm going to drop in. And we're going to set those. I didn't get it quite even, but I'm okay with it. Okay. So let's set these. That eyelet sitter. I just think it finishes it off. And then we're going to take the ribbon I cut about a yard and thread it from the back. So I can tie a bow in the front. Go. Probably cut up more ribbon than I need, but I like to make sure I have plenty to tie the bow and have a tail. So we bring this here on the front, around the back. Let me straighten this up so it lays flat. Okay. And then we bring it to the front. It'll tie into a bow. Now this is going to glue down onto here. So this is just decorative. I'm going to go ahead and tie it into a bow. Okay, so this is going to glue down onto that top flap. Grab my plastic because I don't like to get glue where I don't want it. Let me center this. There, I'll retie my bow once I get it on there. I'm gonna let that sit there. Now then, didn't like the way the bow looked, so let's retie that while the glue is drying. Okay, here. Okay, that looks a little better. Okay, and then I'm going to tie a knot in the tails right there. And we don't have to add any kind of closure because it will hold itself down. And then underneath here, I have put my 3 photo mats, and I will add pattern paper or whatever I want to those later. So that is page 3. I think that's very pretty. And then, of course, we'll do number 4, which is just a little pocket and a insert. So I'll pick the papers for that, and we'll get that done. Of course, when the page is in the book, these won't be sliding out as bad, those photo mats. Okay, I think that looks really pretty. So next we'll do page 4. Page 4 is really simple. It's just the side pocket. So here I took one sheet of pattern paper. Page 4 and page 5 are going to mirror each other. So out of one sheet of paper, this is cut 6 inches wide by 7 7/8 tall for the plaid. And then the flip side, I was able to cut the 7 7/8 tall by, and I've lost my ruler, by 1 7/8 wide for these, the 2 pockets. So that's page 4 and 5. I've already got that done. And here on page 3, I did spritz and crinkle up my ribbon because I just like my seam binding ribbon to kind of have that shabby look. So there is that one. Put that over by the book. And then we flip this over for page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, page 6. And of course, I just patterned it 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. And then this is the frame that's going to go on there. And so I'm going to attach it down here on the sides, the bottom, and leave this top open for the photo. So we'll just put our glue here on the bottom, probably like about right there. Just want to make sure that there's enough room for a mat and photo to go in there probably. So right here, good amount of glue on the edge and just flip it over. Now you could put foam tape if you wanted to, or some chipboard if you're wanting to make it have a lift to it, but I'm just putting it in flat and I'll burnish it down, and that is real simply, real easy, page 6. So we've got that done and we're ready to move on to the next one. Same way as page set number 3. So I patterned the top flap, the bottom pocket. I patterned here inside and here. I patterned the closure tab, which is 3.5 by 4, with one of the cut-aparts. I used white eyelets and tied the ribbon through into a bow and scrunched it up. And then, of course, I patterned the back. So it's done exactly the same as 3 with just different patterned papers. And then I put the photo mats here inside. So that's page 7. And then you flip it over for page 8. Now, page 8 was the booklet, which I did take my ribbons out. I added eyelets just on the front. I probably should have gone all the way through, but I just added to the front one. And then I glued them together pretty good. I just need to add a little more glue in here and press it down. So here on the seam, to make them lay the way I want them to, I'm gluing each one together. So the pattern paper on the main page is, of course, 7/8 by 7/7. Then I use the same paper here on the front of the booklet. I added the gold eyelets. I ran out of white, so I added gold eyelets, and I'm just making sure that my pages are glued together on the left edge for the binding, where the ribbon is holding it. Okay, so you see you have that natural fold there when you open it up. And of course you can pattern each page on the inside. Now I want a magnetic closure. So I have a plus and a minus here. And I took a piece of scrap, cut this down to 1.5 wide by 1.5 tall, by 2.25. I scored it at 1/2 inch and 3/4 to get a 1/4 inch little gap here. And this is where I'm going to put this right here in the center. I'm going to glue this down, the 1/2 inch, down to the base page, just the 1/2 inch. Kind of can center it or just push it right up against that last page, which has been glued to the book page. So now you have that. Okay. Now I'm going to put a magnet on the back of my tab. Pull the backing off of your magnet. Put it right here, kind of in the center. I'm going to put a little tape on it to secure it here. Okay. Then I'm going to put a magnet on. Pull my backing off because this has already been patterned. I'm going to put the magnet down. Now I'm going to square this up so that 1/4 inch is squared. Good. Press that down, lift up. Pattern paper on this magnet. And then I took one of the cut aparts, cut it out. This one is Borrow's name, Jolly Christmas, matted it to black. And that's going to glue right there over the magnet. And it's going to touch down like that. If you want to bring it up a little more, it doesn't have to be centered if you don't want it to be, because I could add something down here so I can still see Borrower's name. So this I'm going to glue down. Over the magnet. Oops. Make sure it's over the magnet. A little bit of the green showing here. Okay, so I brought it up about 3/4 of an inch down here. Burnish that down. Now I'll add pattern paper to this and of course to the back here. And then I'll be adding some stickers in there. So that is page number 8. You got 7 and you have 8. Page 9 is another side flap one that I'm going to put a swing tab closure on instead of a magnet like I did on the other one. So I patterned the paper 7/7/8 by 7/7/8 on the main page. I patterned front and back here 7 7/8 tall by 3 7/8 wide. This I cut to 3 3/8 wide by 3 7/8 tall, 3 7/8 tall by 2 5/8, and this was a piece of a cut apart that I had left in a scrap. So got it all patterned. I took one of the sticker tags, put it on black cardstock, fussy cut around it, repunched the hole, and I have a brad here. So I wanted to go through the entire front of the page. Here we have our sleeve here that goes on the hinge. So you're going to lay your tag where you want it to be. And I'm going to take my pokey tool and just poke a hole all the way through. Now, not through the whole page, but just through the front into the inside. So like right there. Okay, open that up. Take your brad, insert it into the tag and into the page. Now, on this back side, we want to make sure we put some tape to protect it, or rather to protect when we put it in the hinge of our book. I need to make the hole a little bit bigger if I can, because my brad won't go through. Pretty good sized brad, so I may have to punch a hole. I don't really want to. I want it to, there we go. Want it to go through. Open up the prongs on the inside here. Okay, press them down really good. And then I'm going to take some of my tape and I'm just going to seal that off here on the inside. Now you can't see it really well on camera, but I'm just laying that tape over those backings so that it smooths that off right there, and this will still swing. So when this closes down, it's going to be like that. Now, granted, I didn't think about it. This is going to be towards the hinge, so that may, hopefully won't cause much of a problem. I may need to move this over. I'm going to move it over. I don't want a problem. I didn't think about that. You have to think about where something is going to go. So we poked a hole through here. Let me get this brad off. Pull it out. Okay, seal that up maybe. I'm going to move it a little further over. So this will still cover up that hole that I've already put. Don't like it that way, but I'm going to put it here. And maybe I want it when it swings to stop there. Just to the inside. So it's not affected by the hinge there, so that it stops there. And then you'll still have to lift it a little bit to get that out. But that's better than it going into the thing. So a smaller swing tab would be better. I don't think I have one that would be smaller. Let me look. Let's go sideways. This here could work, but it would be sideways. But let's see how that looks. It's there and it swings. Yeah, let's do this small one. We'll save this one for something else. Change of plans. So I'm going to place this right on a piece of cardstock. Take my smaller scissors and I'm going to fussy cut it out. So just leave a tiny margin of black around it. Right here. Found it there. So this doesn't really have a hole, but that's okay. I'm going to put one in it. Here and here. So I do this so that the sticker, of course, has a backing on it. You don't want it sticky. If you had chipboard pieces small, you could use that instead. So what did I do to the brad? Now, can I use the same hole or not? I don't know. Let me punch a hole in this. It's got to be a small one, as small as I can punch. Right there. Let's see. If I use the same hole and it swings around, almost. Scooting it down. And I want to cut a little less black around it. And smooth that out a little bit. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to move it down. Still going to cover up where I boo-booed my first hole. Right about here. Let's see if we can put that brad in. So just work it in and open it up. And again, put tape. Now I'm going to put tape so that it covers that other hole as well. Trying to camouflage that some here. Fill that in with some of the paper that poke through, push it back in if I can, and cover my prong. Oops, that one folded up on me. Let me get another piece of tape. Okay. So now when that does that, that's going to show that hole. But I'm going to put something there. Show you how to fix something when you make a boo-boo. So dear Santa, let's put something up here. Some kind of sticker that looks like it belongs, maybe. Letter is a little big. I hate that I messed it up that way. Got a stamp with Santa on there, a picture of Santa. That up like that. It's going to come across like that. Let's just take, whoops, I had cut that in half and changed my mind at some point. Let's take a snowflake. Put a little bit of glue on it so it stays. And I'm going to add a snowflake there to cover that hole. And then maybe another one, the medium sized one. So sometimes you have to cover up some of the stuff you do with your stickers. And then this one could go right down here. Even though I cut it in half, I'm going to put it back together and use it. I don't remember where I was putting it. Probably on that one that I was fixing that was had a pencil mark on it and I didn't like. Probably thought about using half of a snowflake. So I'm going to put these guys on here. Just right there. Put it back together. And you really can't tell. So there, we got the Dear Santa, like that. Okay, let me put a picture of Santa or something there. You never know later on. This is page, what did I say, page 9. Then you flip over page 10. Page 10 is just going to have a piece of paper on it and a frame. So I haven't cut this yet, so let's cut that 7 7/8. Love this red. 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. Doesn't matter which way it goes. So pretty. And the glue. And yes, the cut apart's on the back, but I think I have another sheet of those. I don't always use all the cut aparts anyway in a collection. Sometimes I just want the pattern paper. That's on the back. Okay, burnish that down. And the frame that I'm going to use is this one. Hello, Santa. Flip that over. Put your glue on the edge here. This edge. And then all of this design here and right along there. Okay, so this is page 10, super easy with just a frame. So hold that down and make sure she sticks good. Page 9 and page 10. We're ready to finish up with the adding the patterned paper to our pages. This is the last page. So this is page 11 and 12. So on page 11, it is the same as pages 3 and 7, but I changed it up. Instead of using that little square I cut out or a rectangle that I cut out, I used that tag that I fixed up but then didn't use. So what I did is I put a brad through before I added this patterned paper. So all of this is the same, and then I added a magnet here and covered this and a magnet here on this pocket. So the measurements will be the same as 3 and 7. The only thing different is that, and then I put the photo mats and that one that would have been a closure piece in there as a little mat or tag. So that is page 11. Now I'm not totally done. I will be adding some of the possible the rest of the frames and stickers and different things to my pages, but I want to get the pattern paper done so that you can go ahead, that I can go ahead and show you how to put it in the book, and the tutorial will be done at that point. Now flip it over to page 12. I went ahead and added my pattern paper, which is your 7 7/8 by 7 7/8, and this is where we do a waterfall. So I have 4 of these. I cut 4 different pieces of pattern paper that are 3 7/8 wide by 4 3/8 tall. And I went ahead and add the pattern paper. I haven't done anything on the inside. You can add pattern paper. You can add a photo mat. Like with mine, it would be white maybe. I was thinking about doing a hidden waterfall, but I decided on this one, let's keep it pretty quick and pretty simple. We're just going to add it on, and then I will add strips of scraps of paper in that 1/2 inch. So I'm going to come down, I think, about there. I'm going to get my ruler and let's lay it down at let's do a 5/8. 5/8 from the top. How's that? About like that. So we want to make sure it's lining up there. My pattern paper can be a little crooked because I'm crooked sometimes. It's a 1/2, 5/8. So I put the 5/8 there. That's that dotted line. Okay, I'll have to reset that. So I'm going to do this one first. I'm going to put the glue on the 1/2 inch tab here. And then I'm going to get this ruler lined up correctly. The dotted line on the top of my page. I hold that down. And then I'm going to eyeball it from side to side. I think It's going to be about right. Before I press it down, I'm going to measure. It's a little 1 7/8 and about 1 7/8. So that looks pretty good. Lift this up and burnish right there. So it's real important to use your ruler or something to help your placement on that very first one. And I think it looks pretty good. The next I'm going to take the floral, and I think I put that on upside down, but I'm okay with it. This one's right and this one's right, so I guess it doesn't matter. So you're going to butt this up right to the bottom of that 1/2 inch there. Not over it, but right up against it, and make sure it's straight. So the glue goes here on that 1/2 inch that's folded over. And I turn it sideways to kind of help me see it right. And put the fold right up against that bottom edge of that first one. Make sure there's no space. When you start burnishing, keep it together. Burnish, wipe off your glue, and burnish down. Then I flip it down and look. So you should have about a 1/2 inch margin down there on the bottom. Should be nice and straight on both sides. Flip it up. Grab your second one. I'm going to use the black with the white lettering. Glue on my 1/2 inch. Turn this and line it up again. Fold to the cut edge of the previous one. Make sure they're butted up. Keep them straight. Open it up. Burnish one more. It's going to go like that. So I'm going to check these. Looks pretty good. And the last one. Now, I think there might have been room if you wanted to do one more, but I just did 4. So let's get this one on. Same thing. But the fold up to that one. Make sure it stays. Burnish it. Okay, so now this is why I had this one piece. Remember I said I wasn't sure if I needed it, and it was cut to the 4 inch by 5 1/4, and I couldn't remember why. This is if you want to extend this down, but you see that's really too long. I figured that I had cut it long. If you want one more flat down with a pattern paper mat. So when you butt this one up, so it's best to have it longer to make sure it's going to look right. You butt this one up to that 1/2 inch, right? Then you lay this one down, and you want this a 1/2 inch past the bottom one, the last one. So I'm going to take a pencil and get me a tick mark right there of where I'm going to cut it. So for this one, I'm going to cut it down to, let's see where that hits. It's going to be 4 1/2. And we slice that off. We have a 4 1/2 inch piece now that's going to glue right there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my glue on the back side of this. And this is another photo mat underneath. And then I will add another piece of patterned paper on this one. So make sure it lines up right up with that 1/2 inch, bottom of that 1/2 inch, and the sides are all the same. Get it nice and straight and burnish it down. So you have a photo mat there now. And so we need another piece of patterned paper. So let me see what I've got in my scraps that I might want to use. Okay, so I chose the back side of this. So I cut it 4 3/8 think. Yeah, 3 7/8 wide by 4 3/8 tall. I'm just going to glue that in there to finish this up. And then all I need to do is cut my little 1/2 inch or 3/8 inch strip to go on my 1/2 inch right here. So I'm just going to line this up right in there and burnish. Okay, so now that's finished. Now you'll notice I did not put a closure. You could have put a ribbon here and here, tied it. You could do a magnet closure, which I didn't do. I was thinking I would just leave it flat like that. I'm not sure. I'll probably want a closure after all. So, how to do a closure? Well, I think I will probably do a magnet one and I will attach it down here, similar to what I did on another page. So I'm going to cut all that and then I'll come back and show you what I'm doing for that. Okay, so to make a magnetic closure after the fact, after you've already got things down in pattern, this is what I do. So I went to my cardstock scraps and I cut one that's 1.5 wide by 4. For it at a 1/2 inch on the 4-inch side, so that folds down. I went ahead and patterned the front. So that's of course 1 3/8 by 3 7/8. And I'm going to put glue just on this little 1/2 inch flap where it's folded down, just like that. And in the center of my waterfall, I'm going to place this 1/2 inch here at the bottom. I'll show you if you can't see it real well. Butt it up to that last photo mat with a 1/2 inch. Center it. Make sure it's kind of centered. If I think it's over too much, I'll move it, scooch it just a bit. Get it straight. So that's where it's going to catch right there. So there it is. So, but I've already put my pattern paper down, right? So we're going to put the magnet on this side, and then we will put a photo mat there later on. So I'm going to go ahead and peel the backing off of this to make it this side easy. And I'm just going to put it on this right here. Grab me some tape. I always like to secure them with a little bit of tape, clear tape. And I'm going to go ahead and put my pattern paper, which is cut the same size as the front side. And you've probably noticed that I haven't been doing typed cutting guides because it just takes so much time and I'd rather be crafting than trying to type things up. Since I give the measurements in the videos, I know that you can follow along or jot those down. So, you know, if I was charging for my tutorials, then I would definitely do, you know, at first I thought, well, I have plenty of time, but I've realized that I do need the extra time to plan other projects, and it does take time. So now we're going to fit. This is going to go opposite. It's going to go like this. It's going to go on the side. So I'm going to put my glue on the side that doesn't have the tape. Pretty sure that's how it's going to have to go. And I'm going to, this just makes it a little more tricky. Place my magnet down, kind of where I think it will be, and it's going to hit. And then I'm going to lift this one up, and I'm going to lift this one up, and she should be in place. And then I will probably go ahead, clean up all that glue around there. I'm going to leave that paper backing on, take it off. Now it is kind of close to the edge, a lot closer than I normally would like. Let's see if I can scoot it down a little bit, maybe. So the paper will cover, but I'm going to put my tape over that, and then I will add a photo mat to this. So for now, there it is on the inside. It catches and your waterfall is secured, and we're ready to put all these in the album cover. So I'm going to clean up everything. This is page 11 and 12. We're going to get these on our hinges, and then I will leave the actual decorating up to you. So let's do add our pages. I went ahead and finished up on the waterfall by cutting mats. So I did 2 white and 2 red on the insides. And then I added the little strips, the little 3/8 inch strips between each 1/2 inch space, one down here. And then once I got all the paper on, well, it's doing pretty good, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy with that. It's kind of got a gap there. I think it'd be okay with the magnet. So I decided I'm going to do a slider, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is another, oops, after the fact. So take your scraps of some cardstock and cut one piece that is, sorry about that, 6 inches by 1.5. Score the 6-inch side at a 1/2 inch. I went ahead and patterned mine. This side here is what's going to glue down. So I put glue on this tab here, so I made it long enough to lap over this one. So it's going to line up right up here just like the other one did, but just make sure that when you glue it down, it lines up down here at the bottom. Okay, so once we get it lined up, then we'll burnish in there. Okay, so there we've got that. We'll let that dry a little bit. Now for the slider closure piece. 1.5 scrap. Always get these rulers upside down. Yeah, there it is on the bottom. 1.5 by 4.25. And then I take it, put it in this way, and I'm just going to, I don't score it, I just fold it around because I don't want it too tight, and I just kind of like fit it like that. Okay, so there it is. I take my hand, but I still want it to slide pretty easily up and down. Okay, then I'm going to take this little square here. Well, first I'm going to glue these together. Glue these two together right there like that. So I'm going to put glue. It comes down to there, about right here. I don't want to glue it together. Okay, right there. Glue your little slider piece. And this is a real fun closure to make. You don't have to worry about the magnet. So if you've already got the magnet in, it's working for you, that's great. If not, then add this in. So I'm just going to slide it all the way off for now. Pick that up and slide it up. Make sure it's dry in here. Okay, make sure it's open in there. You don't want it glued down. Then I cut the little piece to fit. I think it's 1 3/8 by 1 3/8 or so. And I'm just going to glue that on. And then you can add any decorative piece, a cut apart, a sticker, whatever you want to add to the front of your slider here. So this is finished on the inside. So when this comes down, I'm going to slide this on just like that. This comes down, slide it all the way down, and then slide this back up over it. And it holds it in place. So you may have to lift it up a little bit. There you go. Love how it turned out. So it's going to be really cute with something on that. I'll do that later. So let's get our album cover and all our pages that we finished. So this was 12 here. So we flip this around like that. So here's all the pages we've added our patterned paper to. Some frames. This is some tags here that go in there. Okay, so once you have them in order, I like to start from the back. So I'm going to flip these down like this. So this one's going to go on first. Now first, remember this, I did the floating gusseted hinge that Carolyn Ham does, Country Craft Creations designer, and I've linked in the video when we made the hinge where to find hers. So let me move these out of the way a little bit so I can put this in the center. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take this page and I'm going to dry fit it. Now remember, it goes into the sleeve of the base page. So let's see how it fits. If not, then we'll do some angle trimming on our hinge. I like to wait until I have my page because it may fit just perfect without that. So that one does. Oh, I've got it on the, yeah, that's right. that gusset there fooled me. I thought I didn't have it on the hinge, but there it is. So it's going to lay down. I'm not going to put it all the way down. So you can use, if it's easier for you, use score tape where you put tape on each side and you pull on. I'm going to go ahead, push these to the sides here. On this last hinge right here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to put glue, and I'm not going to put it down all the way to the fold. I'm just going to put it here on the top edge, about 1/8 of an inch or so from the bottom. And then, of course, I'm going to do it on the other side as well. Now I'm going to take the page. I'm going to make sure I'm doing it the right direction. My waterfall goes on the back. turn this. I'm going to fit my page down over my hinge, just like that. Go ahead and press it in. I'm going to fit it on there. And burnish each side. Now I'm going to lay it down. Now Carolyn does add hers in different. She has a way of making sure they all go in really well before she does any patterning or anything like that. But I'm just going to, I always tend to put my pattern paper on first and then put the pages in. So whichever is easier for you, of course. And then I lift this up and so I can burnish down in there and make sure their pages are on, the page is on even. So I look to see down here, the side and the top. And it looks good to me. So I'm going to burnish. And I'm going to let that dry a bit because you do want to make sure your page stays in. Okay, so that is the 11 and 12 are in the book. Then we'll proceed with each one, the next one. So I'm going to, while this one's drying, I'm going to go ahead and double check my dry fit. Before I add my glue. Remember, this one has that little swing tab, so it may want to swing down in your way. Kind of put my hand in this top section here to kind of hold this open. And if it doesn't go on easily for you, then you can very slightly trim at an angle a little bit off your hinge, which I think for this one I may do. I'm going to take a small pair of scissors and I'm just going to very slightly, from the top edge, you're going to make an angle down. You don't cut. Just a tiny bit. I'm going to cut off and see how that works. So from the hinge, you can do it this way. Put this up against it and just do an angle cut like that. So we do a slight angle cut. I'm going to turn it and do it this way on this one also. From the base. So it's not cutting for the actual score line in. It's just cutting an angle and making the top easier on this. Oops. Wrong way. Here we go. I almost got myself turned around here. So see, now that goes on really well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get that one on as well. So glue on the hinge, both sides. I like to use glue because I know it's going to be, once it dries, really secure. Whereas I have had score tape, depending on where you live, dry out or I don't know, just let go. It's a really strong tape, score tape is, but sometimes it doesn't work right. So here we go. We'll get this one on. It's going to go easier because of that angle. And we set it down. Look at it. Make sure it's lining up nice and straight, and it is. And we're going to burnish that right there. So all of these are going to go in the same. Always wipe up your glue if you have any. And then the other thing you might want to do is if you want to add strips 3/8 inch wide by the height of the page to finish this off on the inside. Okay, so I'm going to get all my pages in and I'll come back and look at them with you. Let's just make sure this one is drying really good. Here I need a little bit of glue. For some reason. Let's make sure it stays straight and attaches down. Okay, So I'll do the others and I'll be back. Okay, so I've got all the pattern paper in. I'm going to go over it with you real quick. This is the outside. Of course, we patterned this earlier. I had this like large Baker twine string with these little fuzzy red balls on it. Came off of some towels I bought. It was wrapped around the towels, I think from, one of the big craft stores. But anyway, I saved it because I thought, hey, that's going to be great on an album, and I think this is the one. So it was too big, too long, so I've tied it here in a knot with a loop, which I will probably cut, tie knots on the end, maybe add some charms or something like that. Then here on the back, I've just taped it down because I'm going to cover this with an element to hold it down so you don't lose it. Here I have some things that I may put on the front or not. I've got a whole bunch of leftover, well, I have not leftover because I haven't used them yet. I have a couple of frames. I have this one and this one. I was thinking about maybe adding this frame like this with Santa in it. I think that would be cute. I have stickers. I have some of the, that's the frame package there. I have the page pieces that I got in my design team kit. I've got the layered stickers. I've got the pretty fancy brads, and I've got 3. These came from one package, Prima thistle trees, and I'm probably going to put 1 or 2, maybe all 3 on the front. I'll show you how to do I won't show you how to do that. What I do is sometimes I cut the base off. It just depends, and I flatten this down and I glue them in, and I like to use those on my covers. I am not going to show the decorating in my tutorial because sometimes it takes me a bit of time and it makes too long a video. But anyway, this is just going to tie right here on the front. Maybe a little fussy when it gets a little knotted up. I didn't tie it in a knot. I just tied it in a bow, but anyway, it'll slide off for right now. So on the inside, got all the pages in. Of course, we've got this flip here, and we have this fold here, and I may put a mat there. I've got all my inserts. I have not put any pattern paper on any of that. And like I said, I haven't done any extra decorating, just on the pattern paper. This has that floating gusseted hinge, which helps make pages lay pretty flat. I like how that turns out. This is a flip up like that. We've got a frame. We've got this one. Now, I will say that when you're flipping your pages, make sure these corners that you kind of hold them down and flip them over. So we got the flip up with the pocket here. Now, when I finish this, I will have a slideshow at the end with music so you can see my decorating. And if I get a chance, I will have a separate walkthrough video or something. These for now, until I see how thick they will be, I put paper clips on them. Here's a frame on this page. Here's a flip up here. See here with all your elements here. Like I said, hold that down when you turn it. This is that booklet here that just flips open. So you flip back. You can put pictures in there. Here's this one that flips over, and then you open it this way. It's a little swing tab. Frame here. Did this one a little different with a magnet, so that lifts up. And then the waterfall on the back has the sliding closure. We just slide it down and open it up, and then we have our waterfalls. So showed you that earlier. So I like how that turned out. I do have a magnet in there, but you don't have to put one in if you're doing the sliding closure. It's not necessary. So just slide that on. Kind of have to fiddle with it a little bit until it gets used to going up and down, up and down. I hold it up a little bit, I think, and slide. There we go. Frame on the inside cover. And you'll see with Carolyn Ham's Country Craft Creations designer with her floating gusseted hinge. These pages, even though they're pretty thick, pretty big pages, they all tend to lay flat so you can look at your albums. It's a great design. I was wanting to try it, and I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Wasn't as hard as I thought it might be, and I really love the result of it. So that is my tutorial for my 8.5 by 8.5 simple vintage, simple story, simple vintage Christmas Lodge 8.5 by 8.5 album with 8 by 8 pages. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the slideshow. I'm going to get into decorating in this now, and thanks again so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Click the bell to show that you want to be notified of my next videos. Give me a like if you like my videos, so it helps promote my channel and my videos. And as always, shop at countrycraftcreations.com. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.